Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Zombicide White Death. This is video part 2, so if you didn't check out part 1, we kind of just went through the rulebook and talked about some of the updated changes to the game. For just a quick recap, was this kind of goes into doing the Zombicide 2.0 rules, so they kind of changed some ways that the Necromancers and abominations spawned. We're going to go into a little bit more depth on how each one of them kind of work, and when we talk about, get to the villains in here. There's also new ramparts or battle walkways we have to deal with, which we'll look at on the maps. Yeah, so those are a couple of the big, and then there's guards, which are a brand new ability added to the game. Otherwise, there's some other little minor changes that changed here and there, but for the most part, the game plays the same as all the rest of them. So just kind of wanted to get in and hop into all the different components and stuff of the game. So first one I look at is we have our little board here shows us. So we hold our two different main equipment. So if we have a javelin, you can go ahead and throw your javelin in there. They're big enough to have sleeves in here, which is really nice. We do have our backpack up here, so you can put your backpack cards. Again, a little bit bigger, so you can put sleeve stuff in there, which are always nice. We have the spot, of course, for our survivor to go, with a little extra hole up here for their special signature equipment if you have their third one up there. And then if we also throw... Oh, knocking everything over. I don't have any of my pegs out right now, but when we have our character in here, you have the pegs to put in there for which abilities are, your health up here, and then spot for some extra pegs. Then we have our adrenaline meter, our AP meter down here to keep track of what level you're at. So that's just very simple. I always like that they came up with these. These are very nice. We have our token sheet, which we briefly looked at in the last one. Just kind of looked at. We have our spawn zones, which are now divided into four numbers, so you know which ones they're spawning in what order. Do the Defiler one, which will spawn when that hits. We have a flag / exit token. So anything different on there. We have our 4 cauldrons, which are used kind of like the dragon bile to like eliminate an entire zone, but you can move these around the board and then pour them off the battlement walkways. First player token, we have some freeze tokens, which are a brand new mechanic, which we'll go over again when we get a character that has freeze. Noise tokens, we have some rope ladders to get up and down the battlement walkways, and then our objective tokens. The objective tokens definitely like one. They're always in Zombicide, you place them on the board, but one big thing that changed in this one versus the previous ones, because it goes to the second additional, is there are no doors in the games anymore. So this way you're just entering buildings and you don't have to worry about zombies automatically spawning, and then the objectives are printed right on the maps. And we'll look at that in just a second here. The last token-y thing we got is we are corruption tokens. These are like evil necromantic skeletons. Like the Defiler necromancers are spreading across the board. They're trying to get to the beacon. If they do, they win the game. These also eat through walkways or buildings, so if they go through something, that building or walkway is no longer available to use. Alright, so let's take a look at our boards really quick before we get into our rest of our game. Let's see if I can zoom a little bit better here. So, one thing that's really cool about this is it continues the numbering system from the previous Fantasy Zombicide games. So it's like, that's why they're starting at number 26. I think that's a really cool idea, because that way it's showing it as a sequel to the game and not just its own brand new one that starts over at 1. Because also when you're designing mix and match quests and stuff, you're not like, oh, use tile 1 from this set, use tile 1 from this set. Or they, like, these are R's and B's. They could have been like, oh, use A and B's. It's just easier to be like, hey, we'll just add it and just start with number 26. But that's why they are, in case you're familiar. So yeah, here's just like, again, these are like battlegrounds of like different warlords and imperial stuff. So like, here's an objective token, so we know there will be one in that building. But yeah, very interesting looking battle map. If you flip to the other side, we get an objective token in here, inside just like cart or building. These are ruins, which you can see some really cool effects. Here's a guy that died in there. Our next tile Again, very similar. The 2 spots. That's kind of how Zombicide is. They have to make them somewhat generic. So here we have some more ruins with a building there. It's like ruin, full building. No snow inside of it. It's generally a good idea. A lot of snake motif in there. Here's our first battlement walkway. So yeah, when the zombies are on this side, they can't get up on top of it without having either a siege card or being a necromancer who can climb walls or float up there, whoever magic they have, or some abominations can get over it too. Otherwise, they have to find the stairs if the corruption gets through that. So if the corruption lands here, now they can just walk through the wall, each through the wall, which is a really neat mechanic. Objective token there, stairs, they can go up. Flip to the other side. We have some different pictures of guys stuck inside one of the big cauldrons. That's the idea of how big the cauldrons are supposed to be that you're pouring over. Here's another battlement walkway. So all the battlement walkways are going to be pretty much the same. One side's going to be empty. Battlement in the middle, stairway on one of the 3 spots. In the Internal Empires campaign box, they do have corner spots. You will have some that will be corners, which will add a new element to the game and the maps. It's definitely a cool reason to pick that up. We have our central room, which looks like a hanging spot at one point. Half room. Oh, it's like a temple, like the little stairs that go up into there. They don't really play anything into the game. I just like the little details on those. Flip that one over. We have a water wheel. There's an objective token. Some extra little rooms. Again, you only do so much in these games, but they're definitely some neat touches. There's like a little temple. So again, we have like this snake theme going on. And there's like a power code. Now I know, like in the campaign mode, again, just what's cool about this is they have like stuff like this that can activate and do different things. So the campaign mode adds, just to talk about briefly, adds like cards that go on the board. It can change what's on the map. So you can flip it over and it can be like, oh, now this is this thing, or on the picture on there showing that this is now an activated spot, or there's something in this room other than just this empty room. So yeah, the campaign cards are really neat for that fact. So you have to check out Frozen Fortress to see more of that. We can add spawn zones, can add extra features on the map that weren't normally there. It's a cool way to, like, here's these generic maps. Here's a way we made so you can actually have them have different activation spots, but they don't always have to have it every single time. Here's our other walkway. So we've had one with a stair on each side. And now it's very possible to have, let me grab another walkway here. It's very possible to have walkways like this, where you have a stair on each side. You know, so that way you can go up one and go down the other way easily, or a zombie can come through on either side. Now, here's the only problem I didn't like, though, in saying that, is with how they don't line up. The middle part lines up, but the white and the other part, the big and thick parts, don't. So it's kind of a downside there. They should have made them the exact same all the way along the edge. So that way you could potentially flip them one direction to the other. Here's our last tile. And then we have like a central platform in there. So cool. Those are all brand new tiles. Very, very fun to get more stuff. I know that's one of the other complaints I've seen about this game is because of all the snow and everything. There's nothing that like leads snow into like a grass tile. So people are like, if you're trying to like combine these to make your own custom games and mix them with the old Black Plague or Green Horde, they don't really mesh well because it's just snow into grass. There's no like distinction between them. So that would have been cool if they at least made like a secondary set or a couple of these tiles that kind of went like half grass. Like maybe like, okay, it's all snow, but maybe here's like the edge of the forest, like this row is grass. Or it'd be cool if they made a crossover expansion that kind of leaned more into that. That would be neat. But it's what it is. Alright. Let's look at our brand new survivors. Alright, so before I get into the actual survivors, I want to look at the guards quick. We have 12 different ones in 3 different miniatures. We have this guy with a big old shield and a sword, so we'll have 4 of him. A bow on his back. We have one here. He has another sword. He has his bow a little lower. Triangle shield. And then the third style we have, he has his bow out. He's more of the archer guy. He's got his sword ready to go too, and he has his shield on his back. So very cool. Now, these guys are all in this set, and the way they work, so I kind of explained this in the last video we go over, is one of your characters on your turn, you may spend one action to select any zone on the board, perform all the guards in the zone, perform the following action. And they can move one zone, melee action, or a ranged action. So, what this kind of means, I just want to grab a board here and kind of show this, is if I have all 3 of these guys here, and I have my survivor here, let me zoom back out a little bit, I can spend one action to tell all 3 of these guys to move over here. Or I could be like, hey, I want you 2 to move here. I want you to move back here because maybe I need you back here doing something else. Or you can have them attack a zombie or do whatever. If you select this zone and you have them attack and there's a zombie, let me just grab a random zombie over here. And you're having them attack, let's say zombies in the zone, right? You're going to have them attack. You get to roll 3 dice as if they're all attacking as one giant unit. So that's a very interesting idea. So, or you can have a melee attack or whatever. They still suffer movement conditions, so they can't directly move out of the way of a zombie. But yeah, it's a really neat idea because you're targeting the zone and you're telling all of them guys to activate. Now, if you're playing with previous Zombicide where you have a lot of stuff, you could potentially just not put the colored ring bases on other characters and have them be other guards as well if you want to have them do that. It's always an option you can do. So, how the zombies, or not the zombies, the guards' stats are they do not make noise, but they either have a melee or a range, which does 1 space away. They get to roll 1 die. They have an accuracy of 4, plus they do 1 damage. So yeah, if you have 3 of them in there, now you get to roll 3 dice. So you have a potential, it's just like attacking with a weapon, a little bit better weapon. So they're not like super powerful, they're not crazy, but it is a way to like give you some extra guys to do some extra damage for you. And since you can activate them anywhere on the board, whether you have a line of sight or not, this definitely kind of helps you like, hey, I'm running over here doing this treasure chest. Oh, there's zombies coming up to the wall. They can be attacking the guys that are coming at the wall instead of you just waiting for them or you having to decide, do I do the objective or do I do this? And since most of the campaign or most of the quests, they don't care if they die, you could potentially just sacrifice them to stop a zombie from attacking. Then a zombie will go towards them, have them do stuff. Now, to also note, though, they can't make extra noise. So you can't have the guards, at least per rules, you can't have them be making a ton of noise and be drawing extra attention. Although if you have 3 of them standing in a zone together, they are 3 noise already. So if a zombie has an option between you and 3 guards, they're going to go after the 3 guards first, unless they can see you versus hear you. So just want to point that out. I want to show what the guards did because each character has guard abilities, which is going to give them additional stuff to do, so it's helpful to know what they are before we get into that. So we're going to start with our first survivor. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's just a Dragomir. So he is an archer. So he may also hold a crossbow. So let's look at his miniature here. So they're going to have lots of this padded armor, and here's a fur coat. So again, they're wearing stuff kind of because it's winter and it's cold out, so they're going to want that stuff. But then it's also the Eastern, kind of garb, well, like, again, Dynasty Warriors type era. So again, you're not getting, like, and that's one that I like, because I think people heard Eastern set, and they're like, oh, we're going to get ninjas and stuff. And no, we're getting we're getting battle-hardened soldiers. I also think other things people heard winter and they thought we were getting Vikings. So it's kind of a mixed match in there. We're getting, interesting stuff. So he has some abilities. We're going to go through all these. So he has +1 die for ranged. So this is a starting ability. So whenever he does a ranged attack, he gets to roll 1 additional die. So if he's using a crossbow to start off with, so we have, if he's using the starting short bow, instead of rolling 1 die, he gets to roll 2 dice every time. So that's how those abilities work. And then for his guard's ability, he can activate the guards. They have an additional range. So as long as he's using this ability, he can tell the guards, hey, this turn, I'm going to have you guys attack, right? But now they have an additional 1 range during their attack. And range only works towards their ranged abilities. It doesn't give their melee ability an extra 1. In yellow, we always have the free action. It's the same for every character, no matter what. In orange, he has +1 free ranged actions. This gives him an additional action, but he can only use 2 ranges. Or he can choose range 2. He does +1 damage for ranged abilities. So as long as he's shooting at a range of 2 or farther, he gets 1 extra damage for all his ranged attacks. So this is kind of like he's just an expert at shooting with better stuff. Should also note here, we again look at our short bow. A short bow can only shoot 1 range. So it's not going to be able to work for that. So if he doesn't upgrade to something else, let's say, the crossbow he can hold, which has a range of 2, he won't do as much. But now look at this. Now that normally does 2 damage. So it can take out brutes if you hit. But if he gets the, that second skill, he can do 3 damage. Now he can take out abominations. This is a very... one thing I did notice with this set is there's a lot more plussing to damage. They want you to be able to take out these guys more often, which I think is a really good idea. Rather than having it, struggling to, get lots of lucky rolls or special abilities. Sometimes, we have stuff that lets you do 3 damage. I think it's also trying to get away from the, I'm just going to sit there and hunt items. Because that's not fun to do. I personally don't think. Spending the first three rounds of the game just running around looking for better and better items. Until I get, the ultimate weapon I need. Alright, in red, he has +1 die roll for ranged. So this is every time he does a ranged attack, he just add 1 to whatever his die roll is. So it just makes his accuracy better. He has escalation range and then Ironhide. These are our first 2 abilities. So escalation says the survivor gains 1 extra die roll for subsequent actions of the same type. So if he does a ranged attack and he just to roll 1 die, normally, that's fine. And then if he does his next action, he does another ranged attack, now he gets to roll 2 dice. If he does a third ranged attack, he gets to roll 3 dice. If he does a move action then it resets back down to 0. And then the next ranged attack, you get +1 for each subsequent one. So yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, their first action they gain 1, but then the second one, then they gain the extra dice, and the third one, but then when they stop. So it gives him more dice rolls, so he has better chance of hitting things or doing more damage if he just keeps doing them over and over. And then his Ironhide says he can make armor rolls with a +5 armor value, even when they're not wearing their armor in their body slot. When wearing armor, adds 1 to the result for each dice they roll. Maximum result is 6 and 1's always a failure. So what this means, if he's not wearing armor, he always is assumed to have armor on at a 5 success rate. He has to roll a 5 or a 6 to succeed. If he has armor on though, anytime he rolls a die, he can add +1 to that die, which gives him a better chance of surviving. So yeah, it's really cool idea. So he's our ranged character for the game. Can I just flip over on the back and explain those rules a little bit better? Other than having to look in the book, which is a nice thing to have for some of the basic abilities. Alright, let's jump into our survivor number 2. We have Gina. I'm going to probably butcher some of these names. I will apologize. So, here she is. She has a big old sword. Her armored legs sticking out of her skirt. She has another sword on her, or dagger on her other arm. Plus she has her bow in her back, so she's ready to archer if she needs to. Just a lot of stuff going on in some of these characters, some of the armors and like paddings and stuff. So she can also use the horn bow. So the guys that were crossbow, she's going to do a little bit quicker damage, but it doesn't have as longer range. I'm guessing the horn bow probably has a longer range. So she can search, she can draw 2 cards. So whenever she performs a search action in a building looking for an item, that does not have any zombies, she gets to draw 2 cards instead, and then pick the one she wants. I'm just making sure she's yeah. Oh, you just draw 2 cards. You don't have to pick which one. Yeah, so she just helps. She's gonna be kind of the guy that like wraps the bag and want to be finding some stuff. So in her blue one, she has 1 free guard action. So this doesn't give the guard any bonus or new skills, but it does let you perform a guard action for free every turn. So that way, there's no reason to not do it, so you don't have to waste your own turns. So she's gonna be commanding those guys. In orange, she has +1 die for her combat. So it's going to be ranged or melee, whatever. She'll always have 1 extra die. Or she can get an extra free melee action. So if you want her to do melee, she can have just additional times doing that. In red, she has 1 free combat action, which can be again melee or ranged. Most characters have some version of, you should have 1 free combat action later on. Seems to be a very common thing. But she also have a free move action, or she can have boring leader. That's how you get to the red by the end of the game. It's kind of like, which direction do you need? Do you need to get away quick? Take the move action. Do you need to do more damage? Take the combat action. Or she can have boring leader, which helps her team out. It says, during the survivor's turn, the survivor may give 1 free action to another survivor to use as they please. Actor uses action is used immediately, and then the boring leader resumes their turn. So I always like the way this worked. In older games, it used to be like you give them a token, and on their turn, they just had an additional action, which wasn't a bad thing either. I like the idea of you just telling them right off the bat, because then what you can do is, a guy ends his turn, right, other actor ended, or character ended, Jagmar ended his turn, right, and he just didn't finish off a zombie zone, right? So if he doesn't get out of there or finish taking them out, he's gonna lose. So she can basically tell him, you take these guys out. But on the other hand, it could even be like, take out these guys here, so that way I can move through that zone without having to go around them, or I don't have to fight them. Or you can activate this objective, which might trigger something else on the board. It's just different stuff. Or you can have a guy up on the thing place their ladder down, like, hey, I know I have this card. Do all your actions on my turn. I'll use boring leader to tell you to place the ladder down. Then I can climb up the ladder. So yeah, there's some really interesting stuff you can do with that. And I like the fact that, yeah, it just takes place during their turn. So we'll flip that over so it just has what those do on there. Cool. Alright. I think, these might not be some of the most interesting characters, but also keep in mind this is the base game. The expansions, especially not even just the campaign, but some of the other expansions add some more interesting characters and things they do. The Kickstarter stretch goal box, Frozen Fortress adds a lot of more crazy stuff. Well, they gotta kind of keep the base set a little bit simpler. So here we have Yasuki. I hope I said that right. But he's a samurai, definitely, so he can use katanas. If you look at his miniature there. Yeah, we could get some of the katana wielding again, not ninja, but more like a samurai or a bushidos versus, stealthy ninjas running around in the dark, So he has freeze melee. So we did talk about freeze in the first video, but what freeze does is it places one of the little ice tokens we saw earlier. So I can grab that quick. Whenever you attack a zone, it's going to put one of these tokens in that zone. I'm just going to read exactly what it says in the book here. It's actually saying on the back here. Yeah, so freeze melee. Whenever from a melee attack, place a freeze token in a targeted zone, whether your action succeeds or not. So no matter what you attack, you're basically like casting a little ice spell in that zone. And then during the zombie's turn, if any of them activate in that zone, they don't get to activate. So this is a great way for you to be like, hey, there's a huge horde. I'm not going to be able to take all of them out. I can run into that zone. I can freeze everyone in there, and they're not going to attack or move or do anything else. It basically gives me a safe space for the turn. You can also attack. Now, the only thing is you can't really use it as a way to like throw this out ahead of time, because if they move into it, it doesn't work. I just want to double check on those rules there. I think it says when they activate, right? So a zone may only contain one freeze token at any time. A freeze token is removed if there are no zombies in the zone. So yeah, you can't set it up as like a freeze trap. You can't attack a zone in front of you and then hope the zombies move into it and trigger it. You can only freeze the guys in that zone. And then anyone that enters that zone after the freeze token's activated, it doesn't do anything. So if like beginning of the turn, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit and we'll show on here. So it's showing like beginning of the turn, the walkers are in there, so it freezes all their actions. But now if the runner or the brute decide to enter that zone, they don't also get freezed or frozen. And now if the brute moved one space into here first, and then this activated, you might be like, okay, that'll freeze him. I might do that. Activate him first if he went. But it wouldn't make any difference because his turn would have already been over. And then the runner just goes. So the runner's not going to move one space. You're not going to activate this and then stop him from moving. But if he has two actions, it would stop both of them. Or if you get some of the special guys from like Abominations or stretch goal expansion characters can have three activations like wolves and stuff. They're not, if it freezes them, they don't get any actions at all. So that's pretty cool. For the guards, we have damage 2 from melee. So this is a pretty fun one. Again, like I was saying, they upped the damage on all the characters. So what this says is, weapons using the indicated type, this one being melee actions, by a survivor are the damage value of 1 are considered to have 2 damage value and 2 instead. So this will let them take out bigger threats. If he commands them, they get to do 2 damage, which is really nice. So very cool, but only for melee attacks. So now we go to his orange ability. He has 1 free melee action, and then he has hit and run. Hit and run is one of my favorite skills in the game. So survivors use a skill for free just after they resolve a magic, melee, or ranged action, resolving at least 1 zombie being eliminated. They can then resolve a free move action. The survivor does not spend an extra action from this free move action if zombies are standing in their zone. So what this does is allows you, as long as you kill 1 zombie, you get a move. System lets you move out of the zone of zombies. Hey, 5 zombies, I killed 3 of them, I'm not going to kill the rest. I can move out of the zone. It gives me some free space. Alternatively, you could be like, hey, there's 2 zombies, I killed both of them. Now you can use that free movement to get to the next zone, so that maybe you can perform another melee attack right away and take out the next group of guys. This is a really fun ability. It lets you kind of just keep the action going. Then we have Bloodlust Melee. Bloodlust says survivors use skill only once during each of their turns, spends 1 action. They move up to 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie. They gain 1 free action of a specified type. So what this does is it allows you to move, basically combine your move and attack action together. So instead of having to spend 1 point to move, 1 point to attack, you gotta do them together, but you have to move into a zone with a zombie. So for melee, it's generally not a problem. For ranged, it could be an issue, which is why I don't think it shows up as much anymore. Because if you don't have a ranged weapon that lets you, that's gonna let you attack at a distance, then you're moving into a zone with zombies, and you can't hit that space. Because a lot of ranged stuff doesn't hit at 0 space. Then he has Jump, which Jump is a lot more frequent in this set, and I think it's because of the wall being in there. Use once during each of their turns. Survivor spends 1 action to move 2 zones in a zone which they have a line of sight, ignoring every intervening zone except walls, closed doors. So they kept the walls and the closed doors in there because they are available in some of the other games. Maybe use to jump onto a battlement walkway in which survivor has a line of sight. You can also use it to jump off of it, because otherwise you take damage. People have just assumed you can jump off of it and not take damage. But it's a quick way for this guy to get up the battlement walkway, so I'm going to look for a set of stairs. Or down it if you need to escape quick or run to a goal. Then +1 damage for melee. So long as he's melee, he does an additional damage. Now, just as a note here, we have like damage 2, which ups their whatever damage it does, it changes the damage to the number 2. So guard is not a big issue, but if you have a character that does it, it changes whatever their attack is to do 2 damage. So if it normally did 1, it now does 2. If it had been doing 3, it now does 2. But +1 damage increases it. So no matter what, if it's doing 2 damage normally, now it does 3. If it was doing 3, now it does 4. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So he's our big melee fighter. Alright, then we have a spellcaster. We have kind of a sword leader type character. We've had a straight melee fighter, and then now we have a magic user with Sarangai. So again, how many people can, but she does have a sword there, but I love the spell being like flayed out. Which is a big billowy mage stretch, but he's just keeping the furs on. Yeah, so she can hold an Ice Storm spell in her slot. She has Spellcaster. What Spellcaster says, the survivor has 1 free action may only use for a magic or enchantment action. So this is basically your +1 action, but instead of specifically being magic or combat, which is combat's only magic, melee, or range, this lets you also use an extra enchantment action as well. She gives the guard Slippery. Slippery is when a survivor does not spend extra actions when performing a move action of a zone containing zombies. May also ignore zombies when performing move actions, allowing them across several zones. So normally, like, if we had a group of, like we showed initially, like that group of guards that had 1 zombie in there, you could definitely attack them. But if you wanted to move them, since it costs 1 point, and you can only do this once per turn, or per action, you wouldn't be able to move them because you can't spend multiple points at the same time. So you'd have to give them Slippery so they can get out of the way. For her, Orange has +1 max range. Gives her 1 extra range for any of her attacks, whether it's her magic stuff or her ranged things as well. Ranged weapons or combat spells. Again, does not increase melee. She has freeze magic. So whenever she casts magic into a space, she does a freeze ability, which we just went over. 1 free combat action. She has double casting in Spellbook. Double casting. Every time a sorcerer performs an enchantment action, they can select an extra target for the same enchantment for free. First designate both targets and resolve one after the other in either order. So yeah, we're playing with some of the fun enchantments. Let's see if I can find one here quick. So like one here would be like giving jump once per turn, maybe for 1 free action to the jump skill. So now you can give 2 of your guys jump. So this would be kind of cool. So if she ends up getting double casting towards the end, she'd give 2 of her guys jump, for example, so they could get up or down the walls quick or jump over a group of zombies. Then her last ability is Spellbook, which is all combat spells and enchantments in the survivor's backpack are equipped in hand. With this skill, survivor could effectively consider having several combat spells and enhancement cards equipped for each hand. For obvious reasons, they can only use 2 identical dual combat spells at any given time. So it just lets them have access to all of their magic at once, but that way they can also dual wield more stuff because they can have different things in their hands or backpacks, which is really cool. Alright, then the last, or not the last, but the next character, we had some of the animal characters, which I just kind of did last. Some people may or may not like these, but we have Lorna, who's our white fox, it looks like. She can hold a spear. She'll make use of the new pole arm abilities. She's got a big giant bow as well. So yeah, we have new equipment in here, like the lance, which has polearm, which is a melee weapon, but it has a range of 1-to-1, so it can only attack one space away, it cannot attack your same space. So it's kind of neat because it gives you the benefit of being able to hit melee at a range distance, but you also use the ability to hit melee at a close distance. There's a bunch of different polearms throughout the set. So she gets one free move action, so she gets an additional move every turn. So it's going to be good for placing her around. Her guard, she can give give 2 damage if they're doing ranged attacks. For orange, +1 die for combat, or freeze for combat. In red, +1 die for combat, so she wants to have a bunch of extra dice. And then she has 1 free combat action. And finally, she has super strength, which consider the damage by the melee weapons by the survivor to be 3. So this turns all her melee weapons into doing 3 damage, so she can take out abominations with her spears. Which is really fun. So yeah, very quick to go over because we went over lots of the basic abilities, but definitely a fun character. We'll flip that over, get a little bit better full picture view, which is really neat. Didn't really look at that the last couple of characters, did we? Just kind of go back and look at some of them. So there's Yusuke's, and there was hers. Alright, then our last survivor we have in here is Olden, who can use a combat shield. So he's our tiger. So that was always very interesting to have these guys. And then you also had in the last Zombicide, we had a crossover with Thundercats. So you can actually crossover Thundercats with some of these other animal characters, which is kind of a neat idea. So he starts with Shove. Shove did change slightly from the older rules, but it's not much different. Survivors can use skill for free once during each of their turns. Select a zone at range 1 from the survivor within a line of sight. All zombies standing in the survivor zone are pushed to the selected zone. This is not a move action. So what this does is allows you to take a group of zombies that are in your zone, and shove them into the next zone. So it just gets them out of your way. Definitely obviously, again, you didn't finish killing everything. Lets you get them out of your zone so they at least have to move 1 space before they can attack you. Which with walkers means they don't get to attack you. Also a cool thing to use for maybe setting up traps or setting up some other stuff. Because you could push a bunch of guys, push one group of zombies into another group and then freeze them or dragon bile token them, dragon fire. And take them out there, pour a cauldron on them. You can shove them that way. Shove a group of them off the battlement walkway, and then now they have to spend time walking back up. Shove them closer to where, like closer into a group where like your ranged character can attack them, so that in the next turn your ranged character doesn't have to move; they can just attack right away. Or even shove them into a spot with a melee character, and now they have more things to attack, so they can just attack again without, again, having to move. So it can be sometimes defensive, can also be a very offensive ability. Then he has guards, give them all push. So push is a little bit different. If I can find it. I do not actually have push listed in here for some reason. I wonder if pushes is a different version of shove. 1 sec. Alright, so it says, guards push. Skills may be used when a survivor performs a guard action. Instead of resolving the chosen action, select the zone, 1 range for designated guards, or line of sight of them. All zombies standing in the designated guard zone are pushed into the selected zone. So it is shove, but it's for the guards. I'm not sure why they didn't just call it shove, because it does the exact same thing. It's just so weird to call like 1 shove, 1 push. And it might be like, well, maybe they called it push, so that way you'd be like, oh, you know it's the guards doing it, and it's expecting the guards to be able to do it. But yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, doesn't make sense. I also would have understood if it was kind of like the cauldron ability, where like you need to have 3+ characters to do it. That might make more sense. Oh, I need 3 guards to be able to push zombies. Okay, cool. That would make more sense. That's why I push that shove. So I'm not really sure. Alright, anywho. His next abilities are Bloodlust Melee, which is said he just a move and attack. Ironhide, he gets the extra armor. 1 free combat action. He has combat reflexes and Raper Melee. So, combat reflexes. So, whenever a zombie spawns within range of 0 or 1, the survivor may immediately perform a free combat action against them. This action may eliminate more zombies that have spawned. Ranged actions may still be aimed at zone where zombies have spawned. The survivor may use the skill once per zombie card drawn. So, yeah, if he's right up in the thick of it and they spawn, he just immediately goes in. This is also a great thing with the corruption ability, because they get the siege card. Zombies spawn from the corruption, so they might already be standing near them, and then they could go ahead and start taking some of them guys out, which is definitely a fun thing to have. And then we have Reaper. Can be used when assigning or resolving action of specific type system for his melee attacks. One of his hits can eliminate an additional identical zombie of the same zone. Only a single additional zombie can be eliminated, gains the AP. So if he takes out a walker, he gets to take out an additional walker. If he manages to take out a runner, takes out an additional runner. If he, for some reason, there was ever 2 abominations in the same zone and he took out one of them, he did take out the other one for free, which is really crazy. But yeah, so he's kind of like our berserker type character. So if we have like a mage and we have a archer, he gets to be the guy to run up and do a lot of attacking. So those are our different survivors. Then what we have are guard abilities. So what these skills are they're going to let you add these abilities to other characters if you're playing as them from other expansions. You could potentially even argue, if you want, you could draw one of these to replace one of your main character's blue abilities, but I would say as a replacement, not as an addition. This will, at the blue level, so they start this, because guards, you get +1 max range. You could give your guards +1 dice roll for their melee attacks. +1 dice roll for their ranged attacks, so just more accuracy, or so more chances to hit. 2 damage for melee attacks. 2 damage for ranged attacks. The evade keyword, and a lot of these do just appear on most of the other character survivors. So evade says, may use when a survivor performs a move guard, ignores their starting zone when ignores zombies in their starting zone when performing the ensuing move action. So we did see they gave them Slippery, which lets them then move in or out of zones with zombies. Evade just lets them ignore the initial one. If they move into another zone, or if they move into a zone with zombies, it stops them. They do get the freeze melee ability, which is pretty great, and freeze ranged. They do have the lucky ability, which says for each action or armor roll the survivor takes, all the dice that may be rerolled an additional time. Your result replaces a previous one. We could give them Marksman. Says freely choose a target of all their magic and ranged attacks. Friendly fire is ignored. So this is a way to kind of get around that friendly fire ability. We could give them Push. Now, let's see, like our last guy, Olgun, had Push, but one of the other characters might not. Roll 6, they get +1 damage for melee. So every time they roll a 6, they get 1 additional damage. So if they roll 2 6s, they get +2 extra damage to their attacks. And that same thing for roll 6, you get +1 damage for range, and then finally give them Slippery. So it's a really cool way to give previous characters from other games, or even a few of these in this set that don't have any different guard abilities. Or again, if you really want to, you can always add these into your core set characters if you just have the core game here, and just give them different things to do. Alright, we're going to fly through the equipment here pretty quick. I'm not going to read off these too much detail as possible. So these are brown ones or gray ones, which are starting equipment. They do have different backs from the previous games, so I did want to mention that. So it's something some other people had issues with this game, because that makes it harder to mix and match with all the other Zombicide games. but it's what it is. You know, either have two different decks and you can draw from another deck, or just mix them together and who cares what the backs look like. So we have a starter equipment of some lances, which have the polearm. We have two of those. We start with Power Blast as a combat spell, which is gain one die when equipped with another combat spell. So it doesn't even care which one it is. The Shashaka, which has a dual, does 2 damage. So if you have two of these, which we got 2 in there, you can do 2 damage. So what's really cool about something like this is one character might start with one of these and one might start with the other. As you find another sword, give one to the other player, right? So hey, I picked up a different sword, which has 2 damage. I'm gonna give you this, and now you can use that one as a dual wielding weapon. And then we have the short bow. So those are our starting equipment. Then we have in the red, we have our regular equipment deck, which we'll find while we're searching through there. We have some surprises. We have summon a brute. Place a brute in each corruption zone. So this could get worse as the game goes along. We have one runner, which places a runner in each corruption zone. We have one walker, which places one walker in a corruption zone. And we have two walkers, which places 2 in each corruption zone. We have 2 copies of apples, which you can discard to gain 3 AP, maybe use from the backpack. So it's just a way to help gain some extra points quick. You maybe are falling behind, or maybe you really just, hey, if I have 3 more points, or 2 more points, I can get up into the orange zone, which will get me an extra skill. Yes, it's going to up our difficulty, but that skill might help me take out a bunch of guys this turn. We have 2 combat shields, give you armor at a +4+ value, add an additional die to another equipped melee weapon. We have 2 crossbows, which can shoot at a range of 2 for 2 damage. 2 daggers, add +1 die for another equipped melee weapon. So having a dagger or something else makes them a little bit better. 2 disintegrates, get a roll on a 6, you get +1 damage. We have 4 dragon biles. Spend a range action and discard with a torch to resolve a dragon fire at range 1 in line of sight. Maybe used in the backpack. So the dragon biles, of course, take out anything in that zone, including survivors. So don't throw it in a room area where you have your teammates. We have 2 firebolts. So a nice little melee or ranged attack, not melee. We have 2 great axes. So they give you some good dice. A little bit not as good of accuracy at 5+, but you do 2 damage. We have the great swords. We have 2 of them. Roll 6, you get +1 damage. We have 2 of the Goose arm. It's another pole arm. Again, tax 1-1 for a ranged. We have 2 of the halberds. Which have a little bit better accuracy. So that's just interesting to notice these differences here. So 1 less die, but it's better accuracy, versus 2 dice, which has a little bit harder accuracy. So it's kind of which one do you take, right? We have 1 copy of healing. So the enchantment, once per turn, when targeted survivor recovers 1 wound up to their starting total, healing can't be used to resurrect the survivor. So this is a great thing if you can get it on your character and they can at least try and heal someone every turn. We have 2 heavy armors, which have armor with a 3+ value. 2 horned bows, which gives you marksman, so you can ignore friendly fire. 2 ice storms, which is more combat magic. We have 1 jump enchantment, which lets you target survivor may immediately perform 1 free action using the jump skill. 2 katanas, roll a 6 to do +1 damage. 2 lightning bolts. Have a range of 3, which is pretty good, but not as much damage. We have a repulse enchantment. Once per turn, push all zombies from a target zone you can see into an adjacent zone to it that shares an open path, and 1 zone is further from you. So it's shove. And again, I wish they would have just called shove push at this point, because it's just they keep using push everywhere else. We have 2 salted meats. Discard, gain 3 AP. We have 2 spears. We have the sprint enchantment. Target may immediately perform one free action using the sprint skill. I think it's supposed to be a free move action. I think you just messed up. We have 2 swords. Very simple, basic weapons. We have 4 torches, which can spend a ranged action, discard Dragon Bile, to resolve the Dragon Fire, or you can search to draw 2 cards. If you already have the search ability, like our one character does, she doesn't get any additional time though. 2 copies of the triple crossbow, 2 warbows, and finally 2 waters. So those are our basic equipment. Discard for 3 AP. I do like the fact they could have just said, like, here's food, right? And then they could just give me 6 of those cards, but instead they did 2 meats, 2 waters. The other thing that makes it interesting is because then, again, this is a really cool thing. They can do this in the campaign mode, where they could specifically say, hey, pull out the water cards and put these here, or pull out the meat and have that do this effect. And they could change up what they do just by giving them different names. Alright. Then we have the Volk equipment, which are in blue, which are a little bit harder to get. You have to kill a Necromancer or an Abomination, but they're a lot more powerful. So you have Baba Yaga's Blessing, which is an enchantment. Once per turn, choose one. +1 die for combat, +1 to dice roll for combat, +1 max range, or damage 2 for any combat. The target survivor benefits from the chosen skill for the next combat phase. Baba Yaga's Pestle. Kill a zombie with this weapon, kill all zombies in the zone. So yeah, it's 1 guy, but if you kill 1 guy, you kill everything in there. The Dervish Blades. Vulcan just does 3/3 and has a 2. We have the Fury of AK the 47th, which gives you Mana Rain and has a range of 3. So we haven't seen Mana Rain yet as a keyword, so let's look up what that does. Resolving a magic action, survivors may substitute the dice number of the combat spell they use with the number of zombies standing in the targeted zone. Skills afflicted on the dice roll, +1 dice still apply. So normally it only does 1 die, but if you're using Magic Ring, if there are 5 zombies, you roll 5 dice instead. Pretty crazy. We have the Ice Bow, which gives you freeze at a range, but also a 1 to 3 range. The Royal Guard's Halberd, it's a little bit more powerful. The Storm Crossbow, which gives you Iron Rain, which is the same as Mana Rain, except it is for ranged attacks, I believe. Select number, you just select the number of dice. And since you have 2 dice, you can do as much as you want. And then the last one I have is the Partizan, which is the Polar Arm and Escalation Melee. So every time you keep doing melee attacks with this, you rapid spear strikes. So those are all of our different equipment. So let's take a look at some zombies. And then we'll look at the zombie spawn cards. So move these down. So we have a bunch of walkers. So we have 5 of each different style walker. So they're like various different guards, basically. So we have just kind of like a shambling here to the left. I do wish there's a little bit more variety in some of these guys. They're not too much the same, but I get they're just guards. So it's kind of like a really kind of. I always wish that it's sort of like maybe like, oh, there was like 4 of the different sculpts or guards, like 2 of them were like peasants, which would have been kind of unique. So this guy is like, his arm is all twisted around. We have this guy shambling the other direction. Honestly, I think like for someone like me, if I paint these, I would probably paint each different guard, like style, or maybe not even different guard style. Maybe paint like 1 of each one. So there's 5 different ones, 6 different ones. Yeah, paint like each one in a different color for each different one. So each different pose has like one of each color. So like, hey, these guys have blue armor, these guys have green armor, these guys have orange armor. It's kind of maybe like different factions you can kind of like pair together versus having 15 guards that all look exactly the same. Like previous zombies, I did modern stuff. It was easier to do that. Like, oh, this guy has blonde hair. This guy has brown hair. This guy's black hair. This, you know, lady has a pink shirt. So you kind of do the same thing. Maybe just color code your armor a bit. It might even be all of it. Might even just be like maybe like their shoulder pads and their buttons. Like this is the green troop. But like all the rest of it's maybe like a brown or something. Might be interesting. So those are our different walkers. Let's look at our runners. We have 7 of each runner. We have 2 different styles. And they're usually a little bit darker shade. And they do that because of the same size as the walkers. That way you can tell them apart just by looking at them. I think that was a smart move to do. And then there's the other one. He's running the other direction. That's a painful looking... Oh, I thought that was his foot down there. Come on, it's just a rock. I thought he had like a really broken foot. Then we have our 2 brutes, which are bigger ironclad guys. We get 7 of each of these. And again, it could be the same thing with these guys. You have 7 of each, like paint 1 for each color. So it's kind of like, oh, that's the walker of this group. That's the... you know, brute of this group. And there's the other model. And the last 2 things we're going to show off quick for the miniatures, just where we have them done, is we have the Defiler Necromancer. So the Necromancers are considered zombies, but they're usually a human character. It's some human guy that's controlling zombies to as much as he possibly can. Summons them, maybe directs him in ways to go, but yeah, tell them skulls on there. You know, on his base there is all his skulls on his base he's standing on. Like corruption below it. That's definitely have to paint that to look like that green corruption. And then the last one we have is the Abomination, which let's grab our other. Oh, he might not actually fit on there. I thought he was bigger than that. We have our Khan Abomination. So like Khan being like a general or a war, the captain of the warlord. So he's basically like the head guy that turned into the big giant abomination. Rips through. I do like they got rid of kind of them being like really spiky necessarily. Being big giant guys is really cool, but I always care for the fact they started becoming like super spiky. And that didn't really make sense. Yeah, Shirko ripped off. So those are our different zombies. So let's go ahead and look at our zombie cards. So what they like to do is they'll have kind of 2 sets of cards in here. Easy and hard mode. So we'll have the numbers. It starts 429. So this again continues from all the previous Zombicide games. So you have these, but we have the simpler ones. And on the back here they have just standard Zombicide, so they can be mixed in with other ones very easily. So they did keep those the same. Yeah, so they're going to spawn either 8 in red, 6, 4, or 2, depending on your size. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have 6 of those. So we have 6 that spawn at just a little bit lower level. We have 2 brutes. Or sorry, not 2. We have 4 brutes, which is spawn at 8, 6, 2, and 2. We have 4 runners, which will spawn at 8, 6, 2, and 2 as well. So that's the easy mode. So if you want to play a little bit easier, you can just use this half of the deck versus just grabbing the entire spawn deck into it. You can always grab everything and mix and match it as well. But I do like the fact they kind of break these up, so if you want a little bit easier match, play it a little bit lesser one. Otherwise, we're going to jump into the harder ones, which have another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the walkers as well. which have now 10, 8, 6, and 4. So if we just kind of look at the difference there, just every number went up by 2, so you're getting 2 more zombies on every single rank. And we have 6 of each of those cards. And then we'll also have the same thing with the brutes went up by 2 for each, so 8, 6, 4, and 4, and we have 4 of those. And the runners are the same thing. So you can play with either side of the deck, or you can mix and match them. Or you can even stack it somehow, like shuffle the first half together, then shuffle the second half, and then put them on top. So like as the game progresses early on, you'll get the lower ones, and then as you play farther through the game, you'll get the higher level ones. You can do that as well. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 abominations. So all the same, just the numbers change on them. So again, what this does, whenever we summon one of these, if we summon an abomination, if there's no abomination on the board, draw an abomination card, then spawn it. If there's already abomination, it gets 1 extra activation. So then what that does is we go over to our abomination deck, which will have the new picture on there, and we draw an abomination card. Now, obviously, you're only playing the core set, you only have the con abomination. It says Tom Abomination's special abilities. He can move through battlement and walkways. So he lets you get through the walkways without having to worry about those. You can just walk through them. If you have, so it also comes in this set, as we do get, we'll look at these in a little bit. If you get a bunch of the abominations for previous retail sets, the same thing will be with the necromancers. So we get a bunch of extra necromancers for previous sets. If you're just playing a core set, you're only going to have 1 option of each of these, but if you have expansions or previous sets, you can add more. So we do have our 6 necromancers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, I guess we have 7, 8, 9. We have 9 necromancers. So they really want the necromancers are the big idea here. So if there's no necromancer on the board, draw a necromancer and spawn it. If there's already a necromancer on the board, it gets an extra activation. And again, this has to do with it just being any necromancer, or you can have it specifically be the Defiler. So it spawns the Defiler spawn zone. The Defiler spawn zone, the Defiler does not move. Instead, the spawn zone it came from moves towards the beacon, creating a corruption along with its routes. So what that does is that the previous necromancers tried to move across the board and you were trying to stop them. The Defilers stay where they are, but they're going to move the corruption and the spawn zone across the field. So let's take a look at that. So if I grab the picture here. So as this is going, he has his new spawn zones. Now after all the other numbers go, this will still spawn more guys. But every turn, this is going to move 1 more space. And it's going to add this number 2 is now going to be moving across the board. So it's going to make the game more challenging because you have a spawn zone that's going to keep moving across the board constantly. And then there's also them other cards we saw that spawn stuff in the corruption zones, like them cards. There's some in this set too, they'll spawn more in there. And then if it gets to this beacon down here, you lose the game. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, so let's move those guys down. Oh, I knocked everything over. Alright. Then we have Zombie Siege cards. So these are a brand new type of card that haven't been before because they didn't make sense to exist before. And that is Zombie Siege. It says, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we have different ones, right? 1. Yeah, 6. 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 of those. I just made sure they didn't do anything different. Yeah, yeah, they all do the same. I think when you get to the Frozen Fortress or the Eternal Empires campaign, they have a little bit different versions of these. So what they do is, spawn one walker on each corruption zone, especially because you could have multiple corruption zones maybe going along the board. Because you could kill one necromancer, then you might spawn on a different spawn zone and start corruption somewhere else. That could definitely be a pain. And the zombies may perform one move to climb battlement walkways and get closer to their destination, ignoring ramparts and stairs. So yeah, this is gonna let them crawl up anything. You know, this also works for the older sets, like if there's like ledges or barricades, they can just go ahead and use these to climb over those as well. So you can definitely add these into the other modes to make some of those a little bit more pain in the ass as well. Then our last bunch is we have extra activations. We have 2 for walkers, so they just activate all walkers. We have 1 for brutes, and we have 1 for runners. So those are all our brand new spawn cards for those. Then the very last thing we want to look at are the upgraded ones from previous sets. So we have all our new Necromancers, so these can now just shuffled in, so if we have to summon a Necromancer, we can summon Necromancers from previous games. We can summon the Necromancer from Black Plague, which will then follow general Necromancer rules. He'll try and move along, he gets to the beach and he escapes. We can summon the Orc Necromancer from Green Horde. And these are ones that are only in retail releases. So anything that was an add-on, like a guest box or a Kickstarter expansion, those ones are available in the Kickstarter box for this set. We have the Blackheart. Blackheart can only be eliminated by weapons and effects that inflict 2+ damage. It's a little bit harder to take out. We have Full On. Any survivor that suffers 2 damage attacks whenever suffers a damage 2 attack whenever entering Fallen zone or Fallen enters their zone. So he does extra damage when he gets in there. I think these are from guest boxes, actually. Grand Inquisitor Innsmouth. No line of sight can be drawn to an Innsmouth zone by actors outside of it, so you have to be in his zone to actually attack him. The Lord of Skulls. Spawns with Doom and Gloom if available, which are abominations. Doom and Gloom have 2 zones per move. Doom and Gloom consider the Lord of Skulls zone the noisiest on the board. So they're always going to try and find him. Osaker the Pale. Each time Osaker gets an extra activation, all zombies in his zone also get an extra activation. So if you run out of zombies, you have to activate your Necromancer again, or draw an extra activation card. That'll happen. And then we have Kumi Kupa. Spawns with a standard abomination. If none is available, all standard abominations get an extra activation. So this is a standard abomination, just like the core set ones, either the orc or the regular one from the main set. You could even consider the con for this one if you'd like to. Now, again, you can always use these cards, just keep the Defiler Necromancer, but you can throw these guys in here as, I'm going to spawn this guy and still use the Defiler rules, but you can always spawn these guys and give them extra abilities if you want to make them a little bit harder. Then we have all the abominations from the previous sets. We have the standard abomination from the core set, Black Plague. We have the Orc abomination from Green Horde. We have the Abomination. Whenever activating line of sight, +1 survivor at range 0 to 1. Then perform an attack on all survivors in zones range 0 to 1, which they have a line of sight and open route. The Abominatroll has 3 actions per activation. If line of sight on +1 survivors when activating. Can only be killed with Dragon Fire. The Abominatar. And wounds inflicted are 2. Smashes through closed doors and walls to reach their target zones. Use the broken wall tokens, so you can break through different stuff. Necromantic Dragon inflicts 2 wounds. No armor roll. Minimum damage to wound is 2. See the vulnerability rules. Adrenaline provides +1 per vulnerability card. So it has special rules that are accompanied with them. So if you don't own them, you have to go look them up to see what some of these special ones do. We have the Tainted Abomination. wounds inflicted are 3. A survivor killing in the same zone endures a single hit in return, inflicting 3 wounds. No armor rolls is allowed. And the last one is the Abominable, which just has 3 actions. It's very cool. So that is what we have for Zombicide White Death, the core set. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll have a bunch more. Well, the campaign set will be coming out. Plus we have 8 mini expansions. Plus we have 2 bigger expansions to go through. The campaign set and the turtle set. Plus all the Kickstarter stuff. So a lot of videos coming. See you guys later. Bye.